Hi, my name is Ruth Rouse and I'm a Senior Lecturer in the Radiotherapy programme, and over the next 10 minutes I want to discuss with you my role in QA and QE. In order to fully explain my role, I'm first going to look at why I think QA and QE matters. Then I want to focus on QA with regards to my roles in the university and the internal and external bodies which influence and support me. I aim then to highlight my role within QE, looking specifically at the initial analysis of the periodic review of the radiotherapy programme, focusing especially on how analysis of the current programme leads to enhancement for the following 6 years. So why does QE and QA matter? Well, as a lecturer it's easy to assume that I'm doing a great job, but how do I know? The Quality Assurance Agency QAA discussed QA as a way to maintain standards and enhance student experience. LASI discusses QA as a retrospective diagnostic assessment which looks at what has gone well and what hasn't. QE, on the other hand, is a prospective tool and focuses on what and how things can be improved. There are several ways to do this, such as keeping research informed and up to date with the latest pedagogic research. However, the easiest and potentially most important way to identify areas for enhancement is to self-reflect and ask questions such as, how do I know my students have learned today? Did my teaching allow active learning? Could I have taught this in another way? Could I have considered blended learning, for example? Is my teaching current and fit for practice? This is especially important now in the rapidly changing climate of healthcare. And how much did I consider my students' experience today? Have I put all that I could into enhancing my students' learning? So how do I provide QA within my roles at the university? Salmeyer states that good QA should be embedded into everyday practice. So how do I do this? Well, firstly, I'm a lecturer and a module lead. In this role, I'm responsible for maintaining quality assurance throughout my teaching, marking and moderation in both the module I lead and other modules across the programme. Acting as a personal tutor, I provide academic skills advice and general pastoral care, helping the students to feel supported and therefore have the best learning experience possible. In my linked lecturing role, I act as a liaison between placement sites and the university. This not only requires the maintenance of standards of my own teaching skills, but also those of the hospital staff who mentor the students. The provision of regular mentor training by myself ensures parity of placement experiences for all students across the radiotherapy cohort. Beyond this, I'm part of the radiotherapy team. Within this role, I'm involved in assessment scrutiny to ensure assessments are inclusive, clinical liaison meetings to ensure clear links between the university and placement partners, and finally the programme committee meeting, through which programme is annually monitored and where enhancement suggestions are often made. Lastly, I'm part of the UH teaching staff. My role in QA here is to provide the students with the best possible learning experience by adhering to the university UPRs, the student charter and operational educational plans, amongst others. So who supports me with my QA and QE at the university? There are 4 main roles: the institutional, regulatory, professional and advisory bodies, stakeholders and research and documentation. Institutionally, there is the programme team, including professional and programme leads. Then the next level is the associate deans, specifically academic quality assurance and learning and teaching. Above that is the associate director of academic quality of the School of Health and Social Work. And then at highest levels we've got the academic board and academic committees, such as the student experience committee and so on. So how do they complement me? Well, these roles aid me in ensuring parity in teaching and consistency of marking throughout the programme, which is assessed through peer review of my teaching, moderation of my work, and also year-on-year appraisals. Academic boards and committees, associate deans of quality and of teaching and learning ensure consistency across the school and university as a whole. Consistency of marking is also assessed by external moderators to ensure parity of standards across the programme and also the profession as a whole. Their advice can also be paramount in developing teaching assessment ideas to enhance modules in the future. Next, we have the regulatory and professional and advisory bodies. Regulatory bodies such as the QAA and SEC provide subject benchmarks and level descriptors to ensure students are being taught at an appropriate level and that they have the skills to graduate with. In the case of the QAA, they also provide external QA of the university through self-evaluation. The CMA and HEFKey ensure teaching is in line with student expectations and is providing value for money. And in the near future, this will be assessed through the Teaching Excellence framework. In terms of professional standards, I'm a dual profession, therefore I have 2 sets of standards to consider. Firstly, the HEA to set professional standards for me to follow as a teaching professional, and secondly, the HCPC and SOR provide standards of education and practice and codes of conduct that need to be met in order, firstly, for me to practice the radio for myself, and secondly, as standards to ensure that students have the skills required to practice on qualification. The most important complementing role to me is the stakeholders, namely students and alumni. These individuals provide invaluable and in-depth accounts of educational quality through their passive feedback mechanisms such as NSS, MFQs and SSLs, but they can also be included in more active roles such as in development events and the periodic review. Student feedback is the best avenue of understanding learner experience, what works well and what doesn't. Students can provide novel ideas on how to improve teaching that I may not have considered, and using their feedback makes them a partner in making a change. Being a healthcare professional, feedback from placement providers through clinical liaison meetings and linked lecture visits combined with contract monitoring by Health Education England allow me to understand how well my teaching is relating to practice skills of the students. It also helps me to maintain teaching that is current and fit for purpose. Service users are also providing invaluable feedback, adding another avenue for enhancement where teaching is not only enhanced with regards to student experience but also the experience of those that are providing care to. Finally, there is the research and documentation. The university documentation, such as a UPR's strategic plan, graduate attributes and student charter, ensure that I'm teaching in line with the policy and vision of the university. CPAD and the Learning and Teaching Information Centre's curriculum design toolkit and 10 tips alongside projects such as BME Success Projects highlight areas for improvement and provide tips on how to do this. Currently, the radiotherapy programme is undergoing a periodic review, and as you can see from the slide, this is quite a long and involved process. But I want to focus on where my main role has been, and that's in the initial analysis and performance of the programme, where we've looked at various aspects, and I'm going to take you through those over the next 3 slides. Within the initial analysis stage, there are 4 key areas that are considered. The first 2 go hand in hand, and they are the aims, learning outcomes, programme spec, and the curriculum design, content and organisation. Learning, teaching and assessment strategies are then investigated, followed by student support and guidance. Let me discuss each of these areas in more detail to show where QA processes that I'm involved in can lead to QE. Under aims, learning outcomes, programme spec, curriculum design, content and organisation, we scrutinise the programme and modules, looking at both the current modules, what works and what doesn't, and then looking at future modules that we wish to develop. We then look at the outcomes to ensure that they meet the QAA benchmarks, and also look particularly at the wording of the new DMDs to make sure they're consistent with the SEEC level descriptors. The HEA professional standards and the QAA quality code are used to ensure that students get everything they require from the module in order to allow them to become a graduate and also a qualified radiographer if you look at also the HCPC and the SOR guidance. Student feedback from MFQs, SSL and periodic review events are also used to highlight if there are areas which are no longer fit for purpose. From this, new DMDs are created which reflect current practice and feedback. These are then scrutinised to ensure that there is limited overlap across the programme so that students continually learn, but aligned so that relational and extended abstract understanding is achieved. Under learning, teaching and assessment, teaching practice feedback is looked at, specifically through observations and appraisals. We want to find out what is the best teaching practice that we can use within teaching on this module or the programme. It is combined with information from courses such as CPAD. In order to assess assessments, marks from previous modules and moderator results and moderator comments, both internal and external, are considered. Assessment methods are scrutinised in terms of fitness for purpose. And finally, once again, student feedback will highlight what works well and what doesn't. This leads to new teaching and assessment methods to ensure assessments are for learning and not of learning. Scheduling assessments as a team also helps to ensure that assessments are spread well in terms of timings and type to reduce assessment burdens on the students. Finally, we look at our student support roles, thinking specifically about the personal tutor roles and linked lecturer. We gain feedback from staff mentoring, challenging each other's behaviour and each other's support, as well as student and placement site feedbacks. So we're thinking about how the students feel themselves when they're at university, but also whilst they're out on placement. We also need to consider things like UPRs and the student charter, and also any courses that any of us may have been on, thinking specifically of things like equality, diversity and unconscious bias training. This leads to students having the best possible experience, and this helps enable things such as inclusive teaching, because the more that you know the students, the better you can include their needs into your teaching. So in summary, my roles of QA are to maintain standards through UPRs, Educational Operational Plans, the Student Charter, the QAA, HEFKI, HCPC, SOR and HEA to name a few. And thinking about the periodic review, to quality enhancement, I want to think about innovative curriculum design which supports learning and graduate attributes, to think about new teaching and assessment methods for learning rather than of learning, to be more inclusive in my teaching to reduce assessment burden for my students, and increase student support to enhance my students' experience. I thank you very much for your time.